All right. So, one of the, well, there's a few different things that I'm actually going to talk about that I watched my mother do towards children, towards my brothers, towards their friends, towards me, towards just too many children. Unacceptable pedophilic behavior displayed by my mother. And we're going to talk about it because this woman works with children. She works in a school and she has access to children. And I'm done keeping my mouth shut about extremely inappropriate behavior that this woman has displayed in front of me, has fucking talked to me about and laughed about, and has talked to other people about and laughed about, and just laughs and says, "No, it's funny." When they just look at her like, "What?" So, yeah, here we go. So I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, but the fact that my mother would just run around naked, bare ass naked, in our house when she knew my brothers were home, she knew their friends were over, and she had access to a towel because she would be coming right out of the shower. So she had access to a towel. She also had a robe. And she probably still has this same robe because she never uses it, but she refuses to get rid of it. But she wouldn't cover herself. And she would know that my brothers were home. She would know that their friends are over. And she would just take a shower, run into her room with a towel, usually from the bathroom to her room with a towel, and then she would come out bare ass naked and be like, "Oh my gosh, my clothes are in the dryer." And she would run through the house and run down the stairs in front of my brothers, in front of their friends, in front of me, in front of my sister. Like, and it would just make zero sense. You just had a towel on you, lady. You just were covered up. What happened? So, yeah, she would just run around bare ass naked in front of children because who knows? Because exposing yourself in that way is innocent. No, it's fucking not. It's predatory. That woman knew those children were in her home, and she still chose to be naked in front of them. It makes me so mad because I am the age she was when I started realizing that some of her behaviors were weird. That she didn't behave in ways that I like my friends' moms would. Like my friends' moms never would do stuff like that. And so it's just like I would be like, "Oh, that's weird. Oh, what?" And me and my sister and my brothers, we'd always be like, "Oh my god, mom. Oh my god, mom," because that's just mom. That's just mom. Because her behavior has always been excused. Always. Because it's funny. It's funny to be a creep. So, yeah, she would do that. Another thing that I witnessed her do is lay on top of my brother's friends, pin them down, usually in her own fucking bed, by the way. I don't know why my brothers and why their friends are hanging out in my mother's bedroom, but she would lay on top of them, pin them down so that they couldn't get her off. Also, she was heavier at the time, and these are teenage boys, and so they're not going to easily be able to get her off. And she would lay on top of them, pin them down. She was clothed, but that doesn't matter. And she would kiss them all over their face, kiss them on their neck. And it was like just constant kissing, constant. And they would be like, get off. Like, but you could tell that they were uncomfortable. And then she would walk away and be like, you know, you like that. And just pretend like it's funny. Like it's funny. But it's not. That is a pedophile, you guys. That is an abuser taking advantage that there are young people in her home that aren't being supervised by their parents and fucking putting her body on them and kissing them when they don't want her to be doing that. And she did this to like all of my brother's friends. It wasn't just certain ones, it was all of them. And she would act like, oh my gosh, I'm so special. They think I'm so hot. And it's just like, what? What? No. For one, you shouldn't be hoping that children think you're hot. You're a grown ass woman. And those are the same age as your own children. It makes me freaking angry. Like it makes me fucking furious because that's disgusting. I would never, especially even in my fucking 20s, I worked in schools and I never, ever had thoughts like that about the children in the school. Ever. I never was like, oh my God, they have a crush on me. I'm so hot. No. I was there to feed them and get them onto their next class. Sick. She is sick in the head. Another thing that she has done, and I know she has done because she laughed about it multiple times with my aunts, with her friends, with people in our religious ward, because I grew up Mormon, and she would laugh about it, and then people would look at her like, that's not funny, and she would be like, oh my God, you guys are just too uptight. And it's funny. Because her behavior always gets fucking excused by everyone. But something that happened is she would always go on my brother's baseball trips that were out of town, out of state, whatever the fuck. She always volunteered. I wonder why. I wonder why she wanted to keep an eye on her two sons that she acted sexually inappropriate with and all their friends. I wonder why she wanted to be involved. But this particular story is she was driving with one of her friends and they drove up next to the school bus that had the sports team on it that my brother was on because they were going somewhere to a tournament or whatever. And my mom went to her friend, look, this will be so funny. She turns to the bus. She tells her friend, like, get up next to the bus, get up next to the bus. They pull up next to it. She fucking flashed a school bus of teenage boys. And acts like that shit is funny. It is not funny to expose yourself to children. Never. And she still thinks that shit is funny. She still laughs about that shit. And it's like, no, lady, you are a pedophile. And I'm sick of your behaviors being excused. I'm sick of you having access to children. And the last thing that I'm going to mention is in her school that she works at. Sorry, it's not her school. Fuck that. The school she's employed at, because she manipulated her way into being there so she could keep an eye on my brothers while they were there. Why on earth? Why on earth would a grown-ass woman who's obsessed with her sons all of a sudden be interested in being a lunch lady when she's never had that interest in the past because her mom did that and that was lowly. But all of a sudden, when the opportunity presents itself, she hops on there because, oh, now I get to keep an eye on my boys. Now I get to keep my eye on their friends. Now I get to make sure that they're keeping their mouth shut and they still think I'm special. But yeah, so when my brothers were in middle school, she decided that was the perfect time to get a job there to keep an eye on them because one of my brothers definitely had behavioral issues. But whose fault is that? Hers. And my dad's, but hers, mostly hers, because my dad was a workaholic and never fucking home. Fuck you, Dad. Not protecting us when you knew your wife was dangerous. But ever since she's been working in the school kitchens, she will single out the kids, especially the boys, who she thinks have bad lives at home, who she thinks will be flattered from her attention. And she is too fucking close and friendly with those kids. She hugs them, she kisses them. She, like, what lunch lady behaves that way? Not one who has respect for children, who understands that they have boundaries and she needs to keep their fucking space from them. Like, she singles out the kids that she sees as weak and she tries to make them feel special with her attention. That's predatory. She is a predator. But no, it's always looked at as she's being a good person. She's making these kids feel special because their lives at home are rough. Fuck her and fuck that bullshit. That is not the narrative. This woman is singling out weak, troubled kids and forcing herself on them, whether they fucking want it or not. Something needs to be done, but there's nothing I can fucking do because it's all he said, she said, they said, whatever, whatever. But like, if you look back at behaviors, you will see that this woman's behaviors line up with a predator, with a pedophile. She is not funny. She is not a safe person. She is a fucking monster. And it's funny because she calls my brother a monster, the one that she has issues with. You raised him to be a monster. You are a monster. She needs to be taken out of that job. She needs to either fucking retired or be fired. And she could have retired years ago, but she chooses to stay there because it makes her feel powerful. How sad that a grown-ass woman who's 61 now needs to work around children so she can feel powerful. She is sick and needs to be taken out of that field and needs to be held accountable for acting inappropriately with children. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm done and I'm not keeping my mouth shut. I'm not protecting her anymore.